Hello, and welcome back to the Out of Spec podcast. I am your host, Francie, and I'm joined by our friend, Out of Spec member, Jordan. So, yeah, you're actually here where I live in the Southeast, which is really fun. You've been on your own EV road trip in a Tesla Model 3.
Very fitting.
Yeah, it's very fitting for today's topic, which we'll dive into in a second. But how was your road trip you got here?
Yeah, it's been great, actually. Like, genuinely great. Rough range, but the car's not in great condition. 140,000 miles is what I'll be hitting tomorrow in this Model 3 from 2019. So it's seen better days, but I got here just fine, just in time for Cybertruck.
For the Cybertruck event that we just watched together on my porch. And we've been excited for this. Colton and Kyle are still at the event. It just happened. And so we're going to talk about essentially the delivery day event, what Elon said, what Tesla said, how the event went, and then what specs we know. Because for a while, we knew just a little bit about the Cybertruck. And when they announced it, what year was that?
It was November 2019. So it's been almost exactly 4 years since they first announced it.
So you can imagine that the goals that they set may or may not have been reached, at least entirely, because it was, really just a prototype. And as we know, prototypes can very much change over time. And also the Cybertruck was introduced by Tesla before other big EV trucks came on the market as well. So I know that I've heard a little bit about that. It came out and then there was competition and then perhaps, Tesla took a second look. I don't know for sure, but things definitely changed from 2019 in the EV truck space to now.
And a lot of things happened. A world pandemic happened. A whole lot of things just went their way. So I don't necessarily blame them. Maybe I should start right out with this, the elephant in the room. First of all, they didn't even talk about specs at this delivery event.
Not at all.
They talked about a lot of specs.
Sure.
Not the ones that everyone quoted and wanting to know about, which is range and price.
Yes.
I mean, if you looked at Twitter, whatever, during this event, all everyone was sharing was, what's the range, what's the price, which everyone's so focused on that. Price I get. Mm-hmm. Range I kind of get, but I've also been road tripping a Model 3 with about 150 mile range around the country with zero problems.
Yeah, so I mean, tell me a little bit more about that, because I have heard that argued that, of course, range anxiety is the big deal, but really how much of a big deal is it on a road trip to you? And compared to what, 300 miles? I mean, my car, the gas-powered car that I have, it goes 420 miles on a full tank.
Yeah, nice. But yeah, I think range is becoming the new 0 to 60 time. Forever, we've been chasing 0 to 60 time, which almost feels arbitrary because who is actually driving your car and going 0 to 60 all the time? Early EVs, and still now, people are selling it on this 0 to 60 time. They're like, look how fast it can get to 60.
Yeah.
And that's almost worn off a bit. We're not as impressed anymore. We're kind of bored. And so now the new number that seems to matter on paper is range, even though I have yet to really talk to people who actively use the entire range of their car.
Yeah.
Most people are doing 50 miles a day and they're charging at home. Mm-hmm. Now, if you can't charge at home, range really is a bigger deal. Mm-hmm. And of course, not everyone can charge at home. And we're working to solve that. Well, not us, but maybe we could at some point. But in general, we as an industry are working to solve public charging. So charging is a much bigger deal. So it looks like actually they don't have better charging on the Cybertruck, at least not announced yet. It says 250 kilowatt on the website, which is not great. No. And so let's say we'll tease a podcast to do a deeper dive on the Cybertruck, all the trim levels, how it compares to the competition. That's coming later. This is our raw recap
of the delivery day of the Cybertruck,
which I looked for Kyle on the camera but didn't see him, but it was mostly focused on Elon, which is ironic because you couldn't even really see
He was in the shadows.
He was standing in the bed of the truck this entire event, which was above the light line.
Yeah.
So it's just his head was gone.
So funny. I can't imagine being on that team.
Yeah. So what's your first raw? I mean, once the event started, what'd you think?
Well, Elon took the stage. I doubt that he really rehearsed anything, but maybe he didn't have to, right? But standing in the back of the truck, you could see it firsthand. The spokesperson was as expected, I would say, and then diving into the specs. But first, didn't it start off with the baseball throw?
Well, that wasn't right away, but he started off with this whole the future should look like the future. Yeah. And then he talked about this is more truck than a truck and more sports car than a sports car, which is super like crappy marketing lingo. I mean,
Very vague.
It's vague, but it's effective. People are going to be saying this all over the place now. So he talked about, truck performance, and there are impressive specs, and it had to be for this to be this delayed, which again, part of that was due to COVID and just a lot of things. But part of that was just Tesla shooting themselves in the foot, like they did with Model X gull-wing doors. Like Elon over and over again has said, I regret doing that because it was a nightmare. And this is kind of the same way. This truck could have / should have been a normal truck, more or less. And Tesla just went like crazy and we're like, you know what? Blade Runner.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. And they said that too. He says that later too, where it's like the late human civilization reference, which it does look dystopian a bit, I'd say.
Yeah, well, and even before the event was happening, they had this like whole really cool, like almost like animated representation of the Cybertruck, like being built and then like exploding, like that whole effect where you could see all the components inside, and it felt very Christopher Nolan in credits type thing. So I guess first of all, I kind of jokingly said like, is there a bingo board for this event? Like, what's everyone got on their bingo board? And
we had some things.
One of my things was I'd be funny if they recreated the throwing the the metal ball at the truck, which they sort of did.
Someone soft pitched it at the window.
Soft pitched a baseball, not a metal
baseball
ball. So that was a bait and switched a little bit, which is still impressive. They say a baseball at 70 miles an hour, which is, I guess, also class 4 hail, whatever that means.
Oh, okay.
So it's very hail proof, which is good. Actually, Kyle's Model 3 that I'm driving right now, the whole roof is shattered, possibly due to hail. I'm not really sure what caused that.
Sure. I mean, that's part of it is glass and hail, but also what about all the dimples that hail causes? I feel like.
So this truck is hail proof because the body, the stainless steel is basically bulletproof. They talked about they showed the bullet or the guns being shot at the Cybertruck. Talked about Joe Rogan's whole like shooting the bow and arrow armor piercing arrow.
Had to
at the
get
truck.
Joe in there.
Yeah. And so but those actually did leave dimples, but normal hail, and even intense hail, shouldn't.
Okay.
Like, this thing should be pretty darn, like, I'm not going to say indestructible, but you have to be less cautious as you would, like, let's say you're driving a Rivian on a trail and you scrape a branch and you freak out because your flawless Rivian is now scratched. Cybertruck, well, I think we're going to see a lot more brave driving, which is going to be also scary.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of more taking it out and seeing what it can do and not being, really pushing it.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows? Maybe a scratched up Cybertruck will be a badge of honor as well.
Yeah. But also my bingo card was the event starting late because it always does.
Always.
It did.
Make them wait.
20, 25 minutes late?
Yeah, something like that. There were about like over I think the highest I saw was like 112,000 live viewers.
Yeah, a lot of people watching.
X.
They streamed it on X, which makes sense because Elon kind of owns that.
Oh, does he? I didn't know that.
Small fun fact.
Small fun fact.
Yeah, but bingo card aside, it was kind of interesting, I guess.
Yeah, it was interesting. I didn't think that I was going to be blown out of the water either way, but there are questions that I do have that we can like dive into later. But we got some answers, but it was really after the fact that we got all the spec answers, I'd say, because they withheld range, battery size. I mean, they didn't say it in price and battery chemistry, which I think are all really interesting things that weren't included in the EV space. But I think this is more about Tesla in their first truck. And I even dare to say like this is going to be the best thing on the road in general. Like, but they also had a lot of it speaking to the utility and stuff. Do we want to get into that? What do we want to get into first?
He started with the utility. He started out with saying this is more utility than a truck or something that kind of makes sense, sort of.
Kind of makes sense, sort of. Where, and then they showed B-roll of it towing things, of it being filled with dirt, of it doing like really tight turns.
Doing trucky things. And really functional, also powering like welding gear and stuff like that. So really workmanship oriented. And it would be cool, probably. I mean, I can imagine if you have a construction crew or something and you have a fleet of Cybertrucks, that would be pretty sick. I mean, it looks awesome on the job site. A lot of imagery of the Cybertruck on a job site. And it's funny because the infomercial type stuff they were showing, you could have just flipped the Cybertruck in for an F-150 Lightning, and it would have looked like the same type of commercial that you would expect for a Ford F-150 Lightning. Even when I went to the F-150 Lightning kind of secret unveil like 2.5 years ago, part of the exhibit was all this construction equipment plugged into it being powered off the truck. This truck does the same thing. Has 120 and 240 volt outlets apparently, and it can power your work site and haul a ton of stuff over a ton of towing capacity or payload, 2,500 pounds, 11,000 pounds towing capacity. Kind of right on par with Rivian and F-150 Lightning, but like slightly outdoing them, like maybe slightly.
Yeah.
They of course showed off a truck pull, which is a very truck thing, especially in Texas, and this was of course in Austin, Texas.
Yeah, we saw a few cowboy hats in the crowd.
Yeah, including I'm sure Kimball, Elon's brother, he was wearing his hat like kind of front row, so which blocked like 4 people's view of the stage.
The look is more important.
The look is important, yeah. And I wonder how many people do you think are going to buy this just because it looks like nothing else?
Oh, I think like if I had to say percentage-wise, 70%.
Yeah.
If not 100%, at least along the way, because it's a great idea to do a comparison of all the trucks out there, but like it's how close is it? We'll look at that. I mean, if you want like the American looking Ford truck to outfit your electric fleet, sure, but why not splurge on this?
It'd be fascinating to see the metrics of conversion numbers of like what existing F-150 customers are buying a Cybertruck versus what people are buying a Cybertruck who would have never gone truck shopping in their life.
Yeah.
They're just Tesla fans, or they're just interested in unique things. That's me. I was never a truck person. Then I saw the Rivian unveiled, and I was like, actually, that looks cool. And that does adventure things, which I'm into. So now I'm like sort of a truck person. And the Cybertruck does the same thing to me where I'm like, that's ugly. I want it.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, like we've said, this is a really... It's polarizing. It's a polarizing truck, not only because it's from Tesla, but because it looks very different. And I was looking at it driving around like it was on red dirt and green mountains and really great cinematography, I'd say, of this truck in a lot of different environments. And in the beginning, I was like, it is really kind of fugly and, wild looking and dystopian. And I wonder if I'm just like averse to dystopian things because they're a little hopeless looking. But it did look really cool and it grew on me a little bit. And maybe the whole like pug factor where it's so odd looking that you kind of like it.
Yeah.
Kind of was growing on me. But also, of course, hearing more about the utility, that's really what I was looking for. Like, is it actually going to function? It must. They can't come out with a EV truck that doesn't live up to at least some of the expectations. I know that it really didn't match what they put out in 2019.
2019, yeah. So yeah, it's not $40,000 starting, and it doesn't have a 500-mile range. Something that's interesting, which we'll do more of a deep dive in, is the range itself. The dual motor goes 340 miles. The actual quad motor does like 320 miles, or not quad motor, tri-motor, the beast one. But the dual motors, 340 miles, which is less than the 500 they claimed, and starts at like 60,000, and that one's 80,000. The single motor, which will come out in 2025, is 60,000. So a huge $20,000 price, basically 1.5x price bump over what they originally quoted.
Right, because you've got rear wheel drive 60, and then it goes up to 80, and then 100 is beast. 100
is the beast mode kind of one.
And then we also saw this rate, like there's of course different specs that go with those different trims, but then also the range extender. We haven't seen what that would price out to be.
That's what I was curious about, because they didn't talk about that at all. But
I mean, they didn't talk about much of what we're saying right now at all.
They talked about nothing. It's just once the event finished, it went live on the website, and everyone rushed the website. And so there is within Cyber Beast and all-wheel drive a quote-unquote range plus range extender, which gives you 470 miles. So they're kind of doing like the Ram Rev situation, our range extended EV. So that, which is brilliant. I think the Ram makes sense. Kyle's mentioned that too. Like it's kind of brilliant for a lot of truck customers who don't care about being entirely EV, but most of their time could be EV. And then when you really need the extra range, especially when you're towing, a range extender really is brilliant. So I'm here for it.
I think it's cool too, because I've talked to folks who need their mission of their work aligns with having an EV truck, but the range wasn't there for what they were looking at, and the charging was really hard. So a longer range, of course, will make a huge difference, but also I think the presence of Tesla charging infrastructure will also help too.
Yeah.
If you have to make trips for whatever work that you're doing with the truck that you need, sometimes it's, a smaller diameter that you're working in. But yeah, okay. So what were the other things that you saw along the way, Jordan, that struck your fancy or actually made you go, huh?
Well, they mentioned the 4-wheel steering. That's new to Tesla, but not new in the, I guess, EV space. I mean, we have Mercedes does 4-wheel steering, the Hummer EV famously, which is probably the most comparable thing to this beast. And so they commented that the turning circle is better than a Model S. And I thought it was hilarious that they compared it to their own vehicle. A lot of people do, this is a better turning circle than our competitors. And Tesla's like, we beat our own turning circle.
Yeah.
Our giant freaking truck can turn tighter than our sedan. And I was like, interesting comparison.
Right. Because of course they did compare to other.
Yeah. They compared to other things as well. But the steer by wire is pretty cool. I think that's good. What needs to happen. Torsional rigidity, they mentioned it's the same or more than a McLaren P1, which that was interesting because that's a 10-year-old hypercar more or less. But I mean, I think was famous for having rigidity. I just don't know why they chose that car specifically, but it makes sense. I mean, stainless steel requires a big frame. This thing's got to weigh a ton. I don't know if they said weight anywhere.
I don't know if it can weigh a ton, but didn't they say it could also carry a ton?
Yeah. I mean, literally over a ton, 2,500 pounds. So the weight of the Cyber Beast is 6,843 pounds, which is less than the Rivian R1T, which is crazy.
That is crazy.
And then the rear wheel drive one, there's like no specs on yet. So we'll see what things uncover. We'll also talk to Kyle, who's there at the event. They have a lot of displays.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's filming a video. I mean, literally as we're talking, he's probably filming because he'll do his own video and out-of-spec reviews on the event itself. And they had more displays. He talked to like powertrain engineers. Like he should have a lot more info, I'm sure.
And then Colton being there too will have info on this stainless steel, and how the heck you're going to take care of this because it's different, right? We know the DeLorean, but also Elon said that they developed their own stainless steel for this because you couldn't.
Yeah, it's their own alloy.
Yes.
And because of the manufacturing techniques needed, that's why they do it, which is why Apple pretty much develops all their own alloys. It makes sense, but it's a lot of work, which is why I'm sure they're going to be losing money on all these trucks for a while. So I'm kind of impressed with the price point just because of how much truck it is, how much technology is crammed in this thing. And I mean, maybe they thought they were like saving money on this whole, we won't do any curves, which require stamping and just like stainless steel. And then ironically, that's become its whole thing.
I mean, I think folks would be really disappointed if the price point was like starting at 100.
Yeah.
Don't you?
Yeah. Oh, I think so. The fact that they kept every price point under 100 is a big deal.
Yeah.
Because it's impressive specs. I mean, back to the whole more sports car than a sports car. Okay. He pulled out a 911. He's like, we bought a 911. Technically, I mean, that was like clearly a base model 911. And all they did was a drag race, which Porsche's never been the one to be like, look at our drag race times.
No.
Porsche's like the Nürburgring, like in the corners type of thing. But that was interesting. They did kind of a Haggerty situation where they towed a Porsche 911 behind the Cybertruck and it still beat a Porsche 911.
Right. Zoom out. It has a Porsche 911.
Classic. Which is still cool. I mean, hey, it goes fast. It's an EV. Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Who's surprised?
Not really surprised. I think it was just more of a clever way of revealing that.
Yeah.
But that's also really impressive because it is a big truck, but it's still got the speed. It seems like they're like, some things were not compromised. We didn't have to compromise on a ton.
0 to 60 in 2.6 seconds, quarter mile in under 11 seconds. Those are great specs. And the, it's a lot of power. I think like 800 something horsepower. So I think part of the reason it weighs less than the Rivian is that there's just less battery, which is why there's less range. The Rivian has mostly, in pretty much every configuration, a bigger battery. And so that would make sense. Batteries are heavy. The Hummer EV battery alone weighs 3,500 pounds or something like that.
Well,
more than my car.
Yeah. Jeez Louise. So what do we know about the battery from this event? Not much.
Nothing. But hopefully we get those answers from Kyle. And when we do our deep dive into the Cybertruck and its competitors later, we'll see if we have more info. people were dissecting the intro screens, being like, "Oh, I think I spot 3680 cells." So that's maybe a good assumption. I guess another thing they mentioned on the site.
It's NACS.
Well, yes, Tesla has NACS, guys.
Breaking news.
We saw NACS ports on it. Yeah. A big deal is like the lockable storage, the tonneau cover and everything. Of course, the front trunk, which from early spots, people said it looks smaller than the competition. Well, I guess we'll see, but that's valid. The F-150 Lightning is super impressive. Best trunk in the business. And then the low voltage system on the Cybertruck is 48 volts, which uses 70% wire than others.
70% less wire.
Less wire than I guess most vehicles 12 volt systems. So that's cool. I think that's kind of the future. So
the big kind of slogan for this is the future should look like the future. So the future should be like the future. So Jordan, what do you think from this, like you just said, will be the future of EVs, EV trucks, whatever it's like, oh my God, yeah, if they can do this here, we should definitely carry it through to other brands, models.
I mean, they're pushing the boundaries, which they always kind of have. Like, Tesla gets a lot of crap, but they do a lot of innovative things. So I'm glad that this truck is cramming in unique technology, not even fully unique, not groundbreaking, but like they're putting in 48 volt. They're doing a higher voltage on the truck itself for which should lead to better charging in the future anyways. A really impressive torque vectoring system, locking differential, like it does the truck things. I don't want to say it does the sports car things, because to me a sports car is like, how's it handle? Like anything can do 0 to 60.
Yeah.
But it's cool that this can still be fun to drive. It has leveling air suspension, which can make it a bit more fun and dynamic. Drag coefficient's not quite as good as a Rivian R1T, but it's better than the F-150 Lightning. So they're paying attention to efficiency, although I can't imagine this being that efficient. But
yeah, me neither. And really no.
But it is a component of the future. It arguably shouldn't have been quite this far in the future because we expected it a couple years ago. But once again, COVID, things happened, things were in the way. And
if we look at what else is on the market, I didn't expect it to be like, oh my God, they found groundbreaking technology that gets them incredible range and like battery density and everything like that. We know what's possible right now. So it's kind of not super crazy on that point.
Yeah,
we're not surprising.
We're not there yet, but I think this does slot itself pretty well into the market, and I'm looking forward to diving more into that.
Yeah,
especially once we have more specs and do a bit more research and cross comparisons, because I think this isn't just a knockoff of another existing truck. This is a whole new thing, and it looks completely different. And I really like that Cybertruck and this and the Rivian. This is Cybertruck. Cybertruck.
This Rivian, is the Cybertruck that we're talking about.
F-150, yep, and Hummer. They're all completely different vehicles.
They really are.
And even the Ram with the range extender. Now this one has a range extender. Like, they're all wildly different. I think we're getting more and more trucks. I can't wait to see some smaller trucks, like think Ford Maverick type situation. I mean,
those will be
while we were watching this, a really gorgeous Hyundai Santa Cruz drove by, and I was like, that electrified, grabs my attention.
I mean, I feel like those should have been some of the first trucks electrified, not giant towing trucks that people already are apprehensive of taking those on in terms of functionality. I know Tom Malogny would disagree. He loves his Ford F-150, and he says it's super functional for his utility and stuff. But, the little more zippy ones that, you can put some stuff in, but aren't totally for the construction world or whatever it is, the towing world, the big truck world. That's my personal opinion that I just wanted to interject in there.
We appreciate it. That's why we're here. Opinions. But I can't wait. Bottom line, my final thoughts before you give yours is I can't wait to see these on the road. I think they command a hilariously awesome presence. I'm sure, I live in Boulder near Kimball Musk, who is probably one of the first owners as well, although he didn't receive delivery on stage. He's going to be driving a Cybertruck around Boulder very soon, and I'm super excited to see that and just see these everywhere. I can't wait to do some photo shoots with some. So if you somehow got your Cybertruck or have one soon, let us know. We have a lot of things we want to do to it or with it. Don't do to it. Just we'll keep it safe. Although I do want to throw a metal ball at the Cybertruck and see if it can handle it.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like they should have recreated that 1-to-1, but whatever. In general, I thought the event was, in terms of even just the experience of the event, I'm not there, but tuning in, of course we had to wait for it to start, but overall, I felt like it wasn't too overdone or too like what's going on. You know, they had the presentation and they delivered the trucks. So that's really what happened. Yeah, of course, we'd like the team to be able to get a hold of it to really see how it drives. I want to know more about the specs, which we'll have a follow-up podcast about that, all the details, and, you know, kind of considering if you're really considering buying a truck, a Cybertruck or an EV truck, what to consider here. What are the pros and cons compared to what's already on the market? Yeah, so I think it was a cool event. I think it's exciting. I gotta say, I thought I wouldn't like it as much as I do. I'm more like, okay, cool.
Are you becoming a Cybertruck fan?
No, I mean, a fan. I don't know, but it's cool. It is cool. I thought it was, you know, it wasn't super disappointing or super, super exciting either way. I think it was just like, yeah, all right. I'm not super disappointed, basically, is what I was looking for. So won me over.
Room for improvement, but it's fine.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, what do y'all think? Did you tune in for it? Let us know in the discussion. We'll put our show notes in of the Cybertruck and all the specs that we can find. And I'm sure you can watch the live event restreamed if you want to, or if you were there, that would be cool. Of course, we'll get Kyle's firsthand experience and look out for that. But yeah.
Yeah, it's wild. What a wild time we live in.
Yeah, pretty fun. I think one part of this is just like Tesla's having fun with cars, and
I'm so here for it.
Yeah, why not? A lot of people have said it's like a piece of architectural art or whatever, and that's interesting. So we'll see.
I appreciate. Someone said during the event, someone texted me and said, "Wow, Elon's such a terrible public speaker," and I was like, weirdly, I am so attracted to Tesla events because I like that Elon just like does it. Like it's so cringy to watch. Like we were at the LA Auto Show together and seeing some of these press conferences, which are so scripted and pre-planned, and like I'm like, this could have been an email. Why am I here? Whereas like
that's a good point. Yeah,
I like the rawness, and I get it. It's kind of awkward to watch sometimes, but that's my preference.
I mean, on my bingo card was a cringy joke, and we got one of those. Yeah. I mean, you know, just an awkward joke. And there is something, I think you have a point where it's authenticity behind it and not, super scripted, gotta say XYZ, media focused presentation, which I think a lot of people appreciate.
Yep.
And so do we. And if, you know, they didn't give us all the details, but what they did, it wasn't super polished.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. But the truck's not polished either.
I was about to say. But they looked okay. Yeah,
they looked okay. Right? Yeah. We'll see.
Those hubcaps, I don't know though.
Yeah, we need videos by Colton on how to spec detailing.
Yeah, Colton.
ASAP.
We hope you're getting up close and personal in there. I'm sure you're listening in. And by the way, I just wanted to say I got to meet a lot of listeners recently at a really cool Charin event where they do all the EV testing. And so just shout out to everyone who's listening consistently. Really fun to know that like what we're making is interesting to y'all and that you're enjoying it. So thank you so much. Thanks for tuning into the Out of Spec podcast on some Cybertruck news. We'll be following up with more and more and more details as we get them about this and, of course, all other EV topics. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time on the Out of Spec podcast.
Cheers.